I just can't take no pleasure in killing. Just some things you gotta do. Don't mean you have to like.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
You want to know what happens to an eyeball when it gets punctured? So you got any idea how much blood jets out of a guy's neck when his throat's been slit?
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis here with my co-host and good friend, Mr. Tony of the Dead, and we are the Ghouls of Midnight. Here tonight to talk about a 1981 film called Excalibur. And for those that don't know, on this show, we go week to week where Mr. Tony and Dead and I alternate picks of selections that we choose for review. Sometimes we've seen them, sometimes we haven't. In this case, I have. I don't remember if you had or hadn't prior. No, nope. You hadn't. Okay. So, yeah. So this film is from 1981. It's always stuck with me over the years, mainly because going back to it probably like, I don't know, 10 years after it was released, I saw like all these notable names that you would see go on to have these huge careers. But at the time, they really were kind of like unknowns. And so the brief synopsis is Merlin the magician helps Arthur Pendragon unite the Britons around the Round Table of Camelot, even as dark forces conspire to tear it apart. And some of the notable names in here, of course, are Nigel Terry, Helen Mirren, Gabriel Byrne, Liam Neeson, and Patrick Stewart. So really, before we dive really heavy into it, what was your first thoughts, kind of like the opening scenes of the film?
Well, I mean, I thought it was like Merlin. I've seen him before and things. I looked it up and I'm like, I don't know where he's from, but like I've seen him in something else. But I thought his character, Merlin, was my favorite one in the whole movie. Like I think his character is great. Just the planning that was going into it and everything, like his like idea. I really like that.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. Like I haven't seen this in years, but I have it on Blu-ray, but I just don't get around to watching too often. But
yeah,
I forgot like how kind of comedic Merlin is in this. Like, there's just some weird scenes. Like, it's not really weird, but just because there is a lot of seriousness going on in this film, a lot of like blood, guts, and stuff like that. But then there's these scenes where Merlin is almost like a goof at times, which is kind of funny.
He's kind of like going with the flow. Like,
yeah,
like everybody's like, so, look at me wrong. I gotta defend my honor because you sneezed in my direction. And he's just like, I'm just going to go over here, let these idiots do it. And then he's like, he hatches a plan.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So basically, the film pretty much starts out though with Merlin assisting who become Arthur's father, Uther Pendragon, and he's trying to gain possession of the Excalibur, of the sword. And so Merlin assists in doing that by retrieving it from the lake, the lady in the lake, the famous story from the King Arthur story, but ends up giving it to Uther, who eventually tries to unite, which is the whole plan that Merlin always has. He's as an advisor and a sorcerer, he's trying to, squash out.
You mean he gave it to Arthur?
Yeah, no, he gave it to Uther, the father, at the very beginning.
Well, yeah.
Arthur's the one.
Oh my God! I thought that Gabriel was
Byrne. Yeah.
Byrne. I thought he was Arthur in the beginning. I switched him up with the other guy. That's the only thing I totally messed up there. Okay, I'm like,
well, it is funny because they kind of have similar sounding names, but it's Uther and then there's Arthur.
Okay.
So
plus,
yeah, so
that guy kind of did look like Gabriel, like looked like it could be his, like a brother.
Oh yeah, well, I mean they did
crazy.
spot on job, like casting. I mean, as far as like the looks and everything, like it took me a moment even to recognize Liam. He was so young in this. So
yeah.
So Uther gets the Excalibur, and eventually he's at a war with the Duke of Cornwall, and eventually they make a truce. And of course, one thing that Merlin does, he has a bit of foresight. He says, "Look, you got to behave. You can't break the truce." And of course, Uther, in his lust for the Cornwall's wife, who is quite enchanting with her dancing and everything else, certainly he sits there and says, "I've got to have her. I don't care. Just one night, I got to have her."
Yep.
And so this is kind of the cool part too, is basically Merlin says, "Okay, well, I'll do this. However, once you have a kid, which he already foresaw, I want the kid." And of course, Uther can't have the foresight to know that that's going to cost him dearly. But so what ends up happening is Merlin casts what's called the Dragon's Breath, and it's like a fog bank that comes out and allows him to defeat Cornwall, and basically Cornwall and his men are trying to chase down Arthur after they've been battling for a few days at the castle.
Yeah.
So Cornwall, the Duke, comes out and he's with his guys and they're running through the Dragon's Breath. And then while this is happening, Merlin has Uther ride into the castle because the wife is still there. And as he's running, he's able to like transform him look wise as a mirage or a charade in the form of the Duke. And of course, he gets in there, and everyone thinks he's the Duke, and he goes to the wife. And at this time, we see a small Morgana Lefay, who's the daughter, and she has foresight that she sees her dad dead, but there's Uther looking like the Duke inside the castle. So,
Yep.
The mother who has been desired by Uther is telling her be at ease, and then they end up having sex. So Uther gets what he wants. Next thing you know, we saw the death of the Duke. His body's being brought back, and the mother's like, "How is this possible? He was just here."
Yeah, like when did he die?
Right. So we find out afterwards that once, like 9 months later, when I think her name is Igraine.
Yeah.
She ends up giving birth to the kid, and so Uther shows back up, and he's kind of got this vibe now where he's want to be like a helper of men, and he's proud of the boy and all this stuff. But Merlin comes calling. He's like, "Well, time to pay up, brother."
Yeah.
Yep. So there is this tension because Uther now was like, I wasn't thinking clearly, and that's like Merlin's like, that's not how this works, brother. It's not how the deal is struck.
Well, that's not my problem. You made a
You're
deal.
right.
I slept for 9 moons.
Yes. Yes. And so he gets the kid and he starts walking through the forest, and Uther tries to chase him down. But is then ambushed by, I think, his own men. I think everyone kind of mistrusts him at this point. So I think his own men were actually turning against him at this point.
Yeah.
And so everybody covets, of course, the Excalibur, which is whoever possesses it is king. That's pretty much how it works. So there's actually a very cool scene where Uther is, kind of hurt. He's been beat up. He's been stabbed a few times, and he's going to be like, well, no one's going to get Excalibur. So he impales this into a stone rock. And so that's where we get that sword and stone thing from. And immediately 2 knights that were trying to take him out, were trying to pull it out of the stone. They can't get it. So I do love how the sword itself has like this green sheen to it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Cause like they'll talk to it or something. And then it like, it's like they're powering it up almost, because in a way the sword is sort of alive in a way, like it has like an essence to it. I take it as.
Yeah, well, we did see that later on with Arthur and Lancelot when they first fought. So there is something like within the sword, and that's just like a cool scene. I really love the effects there with that.
Yeah, it was cool. I thought the effects in this were really cool.
Oh yeah.
Like especially like Lancelot pulls the sword out of himself.
Yeah.
I had to rewind. I go, Shannon, just look at this. I said, that looks real. I know it's a retractable blade, but like they did it fucking so well. I was like, wow. He's actually fucking the Rock there. He wasn't trying to get the sword.
Banging away on Darla.
So much moss, so little time.
Right.
Jesus. But yeah, that was cool. That was a cool looking thing, like right in there and stuff. That was pretty cool. And like nobody can get in. And then like the very next scene, it's like they don't say it, but it's like years later, and they could have like somebody there, and there's a little basket on the thing, and then like the little kind of village thing they made, and they're all jousting of. That's pretty, Well, you're going. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Merlin, of course, Uther dies, Uther dies, and then Merlin raises, or at least temporarily raises, Arthur. He's already named him Arthur, and he's already sort of like made plans. This is almost like I forget what movie it is, but he's basically said you are going to be the one to pull the sword from the stone. Like
Oh,
he's
yeah.
already made this declaration.
Oh yeah.
So he gives him to like another knight or something who raises his son as a knight. But at this point, when Arthur gets older, he's only a squire. So he's kind of like helping out his brother who's a knight. And of course, as you mentioned, the jousting and the fighting, everyone's fighting for the right to try to pull the sword from the stone, like as if nobody could just walk up to it anyway. I mean, I would. But apparently you have to fight for the right to show that you're the strongest. That's how they foresaw it. Like whoever's the strongest gets a chance to pull it from the sword or sort of sword from the rock. And at some point, Arthur's brother is getting ready to joust and fight. So his dad's like, where's his sword? You know, you're a good squire, knows where his brother's sword is. So he's like, shit. So he goes back to try to get it and finds out someone just walked away with it. So he's running back through the forest and he comes across the rock. And of course, he decides, well, I think I'll just go ahead and see if I can borrow this one, which, you know, he doesn't know any better really, but he just takes a chance. And sure enough, this is like one of the funnier moments early in the film because he gets it out shockingly, but then like his dad's like put it back. You know,
Yeah.
like you're not supposed to be able to do that. That's his brother there. So he gives it to his brother, like he's just like, here's a sword.
Here you go. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, his dad's like, did you pull it? He's like,
Yes.
yeah, well, no, I didn't.
No. I was surprised he admitted it. See,
Yeah, no
I
shit.
only know some of the story, you know, like I know about the sword and stone and all that, but I don't know like everything.
Mhm.
And I thought that was like, yes, no, Arthur did. But yeah, like I was surprised. I thought he was going to take credit. And I thought Arthur was going to be like, okay, good. I'm glad he's taking credit.
So then he sticks it back in. Like it's so funny. Like then somebody comes up like, hey, yeah, I think I'm gonna get it now because he's already loosened it up.
Right.
But it is funny because you know, the villagers behind him, they're all wanting the kid to pull it because like he's not your average knight at this point. He's not even a knight.
Yeah.
And of course, this guy here, he's a real testy guy. He just really pissed off about this stuff. There's Stewart there, younger.
He was great in this movie too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like this kind of roles are like what he's made to play, you know.
Oh yeah,
A lot of them, looking it up, like they've been in a lot of these type of movies. It's like almost like a typecast, but like if you're good at it, do it. You know.
exactly. Yeah.
Even the guy Lancelot, I looked. He was in the show Merlin. I never saw the show or a movie called Merlin or something like that, or was it a show? I think it was a show. But he was on that too, and I thought, well, that's kind of like. Do you think he'd be like, oh, sure, you know why? Because I was in Excalibur. You know, they get typecast for things, but hey, if you get work, you get work.
That's how it works. Okay, so Arthur grows, you know, he's gets a sword. People are gonna call him king, but that dude that tried to get it before him the second time, he is very upset. He's like, this dude's just a squire, he's not even a knight.
Yeah.
So he's not accepting that Arthur's gonna be king. So this war between actually, because Arthur ends up following Merlin back to the forest, and so I think it's Patrick Stewart's character. He's going to side with Arthur, but there's like this war now between the knights.
Yeah, is there
about
like,
who's gonna
are you with
support him.
us or are you with him?
Right.
And he's like, because he like saw him do it. He's like, not accepting that he's king and nobody
Yep.
else is. Yep.
Yep. So eventually, when Arthur comes back to realize that he is going to be king, Merlin's like, you got to figure this out. You're going to be the leader. And finally, Arthur's like, okay, yeah, all right. So he has some people that are already waiting. They're already like in their own little tents and stuff. They're like waiting for him to come, like, lead us, lead us to what you want to do. He's like, all right, well, we gotta go save. What is Stewart's character in this? Leogrance, King Leogrance. So he's gonna go help King Leogrance protected from the attack that they've got going on from that other night. So he gets there, and of course, Leogrance has a daughter who is Guinevere, who is very famous in the story of Arthur and all that.
Mhm.
So obviously Arthur gets there. They there's fighting and whatnot, and then there's this moment where, and I'm trying to remember the guy that is the pain in the ass.
Oh, the guy he's gonna fight and then he knights him.
Yeah, because it's actually a very cool. Yeah, I think it's Urins. I think that's his name.
Oh yeah, because I was like, his name is Urine.
Yeah, yeah. What a name, King Urine.
King,
Yeah,
King Piss.
yeah. King sprayed all over the place.
Yeah. Whereas
So
if
anyway,
you was if you're Spanish should be, or no, French should be King Wee Wee.
wee wee. So yeah, so they're fighting, and down near the castle here, and actually Arthur gets the better of Urins here, but Urins is still like, I'm not gonna follow you or pledge myself to you because you're just a squire. So this is a cool moment because Arthur's like, you're right, I am. So he actually hands Excalibur to Urins and says, knight me, please.
Yeah.
And so there's this moment where you even hear some of his own men like, keep the sword, keep the
Keep
sword.
the sword.
But he ends up knighting Arthur. Now that's the respect that Urins shows. Like, yeah, okay, you could have killed me, but you didn't. So here we go. He's going to knight him, and then he pledges himself, which is, it unites these knights together. Which then we had the round table and Camelot. And I couldn't help but think of Holy Grail every single time I watched this film. You see all the like little bits. We even get to Lancelot.
Right when that part where they go, I go Camelot, and I go, it's only a model.
Camelot.
It's only a model. Shh.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I said to Shayna, I just say random shit. And I go, on second thought, let's not go to Camelot. It is a silly
Right.
place.
Yeah.
Or Knights of the Round Table.
So we're way off topic.
No, we're still talking about Camelot.
Yeah.
There's many stories of it. And the thing with that, where
the multiverse.
Oh yeah, exactly. Where Arthur wanted him to knight him, and then like, even Merlin was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't see this.
What are you doing? Yeah. Yeah. Even Merlin got surprised a few times in this.
I didn't foresee this. So that was pretty cool.
So so we get like peace basically, and now the knights are all celebrating, and Arthur is, even though he was banged up after the fight, Guinevere was patching him up, and they were dancing, and he kind of hurt himself because he wasn't quite healed. So he took a step back and he's talking to Merlin. He's like, I need a wife.
Yeah.
And so he really likes Guinevere. He's in love with her. But Merlin's like, yeah, but I do have foresight, and I can tell you that she will not love you. She will love somebody else. But these men are hard-headed. They got to have their ladies, and so he ends up marrying Guinevere. But he then comes across a gentleman named Lancelot, who, before Arthur gets to this bridge, his other knights cannot defeat Lancelot. Like, they're just not having any luck. Now, unlike Holy Grail, this is not a black knight. This is a guy in a shiny silver coated knight. So.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of nice little things going on for him, but a really good fighter. Arthur decides, well, I got to go see what's going on. I am your king. Step aside. And he won't do it because he's looking for a king who's worthy enough for him to pledge his allegiance to. So they tussle and fight, and it's a good fight and whatnot. And as you pointed out earlier, about the Excalibur and the power that it wields.
Yeah.
Arthur's actually getting his ass kicked. Like, Lancelot's really beating his ass. And so he's like,
he said your rage is like, it's like consuming you. It's making you not be like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's actually Lancelot's like, dude, you just got too much anger. You got to enhance your calm.
Yeah.
But eventually Arthur's like, come on, Excalibur, give me the power of Grayskull. Let me get this way. So he flings it and breaks the staff that the pike that Lancelot has, and injures Lancelot, not too much because his armor protected most of it, but it did knock him the fuck out. Like,
Oh yeah.
that's how strong it was. But it's kind of cool. Again, another nice scene where Arthur's like, well, fuck, man, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I let my anger get the best of me. Because he broke Excalibur in the process, like, it literally broke it.
Yeah.
Merlin's like looking like, oh, what the fuck did you do?
This kid.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing to me, bro?
Yeah. Like, what happened? You broke something that could never be broken.
Yeah.
Well, the Titanic was unsinkable too. No, not that they knew that. Not that they were real.
They thought they did. They thought it was unsinkable, but so yeah. So anyway, somehow I don't know if it's like a river or a little pond near them.
Yeah, it was like a little pond, like on the bottom of the rocks. Yeah.
So also we see the lady in the water, and there's a brand new Excalibur, fully formed, and Martin's like, quick, grab it before someone sees us. One of those things.
Yeah.
So at that point, once Lancelot comes to, he's like, you're worthy of me to serve you, and he wants to be Arthur's champion, which he does become. He's like the best fighter of them all. But we already learned very early on that, he's gonna start developing feelings for Guinevere. So, you can kind of see he's got a Shiner Stewart, who's the father of Guinevere. But while all this is kind of going on, this secret like infatuation, we also learn the fate of Morgana Lefay, who's now grown up, and that's Helen Mirren's character, who is basically the half sister of Arthur. Or is it full sister? I can't remember. No, it's half sister.
Oh, it's half.
It's different mother. Yeah. So she reveals to Merlin that she is also got sight, and she knows the ways of sorcery. And so Merlin's intrigued but cautious. And so I'll give a picture here real quick because it's really Helen at her hottest. Like, it's just ridiculously hot.
Yeah.
Which I do have a funny thing, which I think maybe I'll play now. So hold on one second as I pull it up, because I did not know this back then, but I thought it was quite funny, and it's not super long. But anyway, apparently at this time, Helen and Liam had been dating.
Oh,
but there's the way that Liam's going to explain in this interview. It's only like a minute long or so, but the way he explains his first interaction with Helen, you'll get a kick out of it.
Usually, when I, introduce the characters, I say, do you all know each other? But now, Jamie, you and I, bit gooseberry, because this is, I think, the first time we've ever had this, that you guys, you dated at one point.
Yeah. Helen and I?
Yes.
Oh, yes, darling.
Yes. We didn't date, we lived together.
We lived together,
wow.
Yeah,
4
that's
years.
we were a serious item for a while, yeah.
But I remember Kieran Hines and myself, we did this film Excalibur together.
Yeah.
1980.
Our first movie for all of us, really.
I was
jealous.
We were so green and ignorant about filmmaking.
But I remember being out of the set. This was Ardmore Studios.
Oh, yeah.
Dublin. And Helen had a break. She was filming, but she was in costume. And we were there just visiting. We hadn't started work yet. And the first AD or the second AD said, would you like to meet Helen Mirren? I said, yeah, I'd love to. So she walked from like 100 yards away, dressed as Morgana Lefay. And Kieran's my oldest friend, and we both went, fuck. So I was smitten. I think Kieran was smitten too. I was certainly
I never
smitten.
knew that. You've never told me that before. That's amazing.
Oh.
You've never told me that before.
I just love, like, he's like, fuck.
and I don't blame him at all.
No, because, dude, she was very beautiful. She still is, actually. As an older woman, she's still very beautiful. But
yeah, absolutely.
You
Shani
forget
said
just
that.
how much of a knockout she was. And it's like, I can see why their reaction would be that way.
I never have seen anything with her in before. Like, maybe like I think the first time I ever heard of her was in the movie Red.
Yeah,
I was like,
I mean, I knew of her, but I think
right.
when I think of her, that's the first thing I remember seeing her in.
Yeah, I've only ever seen her older, so when I see her younger, it's like I see what they're all about. Like she is hot. Same thing like Bo Derek, like in Tommy Boy. I was like, why are they all like, ooh, what's the big deal with this woman? And then like you see her from the back, it's like, oh,
yeah,
okay, yeah.
Same thing with dude Maggie Smith, Clash of the Titans. I mean, she was gorgeous, gorgeous.
Yeah, there's a
So
lot
it
of them.
just
Some of them haven't really aged, but
yeah, I mean, it happens. You know, you can't control that. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny when I expected. You don't ever expect Liam to say "fuck." That was just like so great. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I like how she oh, you never told me that. Oh, like it's like she got all embarrassed a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he probably doesn't want to, especially now. I think they both have moved on to other, marriages or whatever. But
how old is that? How old was that interview?
I don't know. It can only be like less than 5 years, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's not like I don't think it's super new, but I don't think it's super old either.
I think isn't he retiring now from movies? He's gonna like make like
I think so. He obviously I forget the details, but either his wife or one of his kids died or something. Like I can't remember what it was, but it was a really bad moment for him. I think it's his wife that passed.
Oh,
yeah. So it's just really weird thing. I mean, it's been a few years, but I remember at the time it was a really tough time for him.
Oh shit.
Yeah. But anyway,
yeah,
I thought it was nice, and it was a nice little addition to this. But
yeah, I like that.
Back to this, Morgana obviously is trying to learn from Merlin. She wants to learn all the secrets and encompass her sorcery skills, but Merlin's a little bit cautious about it, but at the same time he hasn't really met anybody who has that insight like he does, so he's kind of excited too. But we start to learn that Morgana is kind of the one feeding misinformation or trying to influence dissent against Arthur and Guinevere. So there is a moment where she's sitting there with Liam Neeson's character, one of the knights. His name is Gawain. And she's like, see how she looks? And whenever they talk about Lancelot, because Lancelot has stopped coming to the round table, he kind of just goes out to the woods and gets naked and chills. Like,
yeah.
It's just his thing, maybe the armor's too heavy, he doesn't want to soil it, so he just letting it all hang out, basically.
But I'm just thinking of like, you don't know what bugs are crawling under there. like I hate moss on a rock. I think it looks fine in pictures and stuff, but like I don't want to touch that shit.
And worms. And,
yeah. They showed like that millipede one part, and it was like 5 million legs, and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's just me.
But anyway, so he hasn't really been going because he's in love with Guinevere, but he doesn't want to create problems for Arthur because that's his best friend, and it's just him just trying to stay away and out of sight, out of mind.
Which he told her like a day before their fucking wedding, because she says to him like, oh, about is there somebody else? And he's like, there is one. And he's like, I'll love you. What do you say? Like, I'll love you.
Yeah, he said basically to I will love you and my best friend, and I will always serve him, and you are my queen, but it was something to the effect of like, I will never be with another woman. You're only it until you die or something. It was something weird.
Yeah.
So so that was that scene where they were on the horses, and he was basically on their way. She was on her way to get married, and that's when he breaks it to her that, I'm in love with you, but I can't have you, and since he's my king, I'm not going to be with you. That's how he pretty much put it. And she kind of backed off.
If he wouldn't have said that, it would have just been like they have a crush on each other and nothing,
Yeah.
But him doing that made it even stronger, I think. I don't know.
Well, probably. And then, of course, there's the tension now at the table because Neeson makes this accusation that she is fawning over Lancelot. Because there comes a point where Merlin tells Arthur that, there's always evil, sometimes from in-house. And he's actually referring to Morgana. But Morgana, of course, has been telling Neeson's character, Gawain, that she has eyes for Lancelot. And so Arthur is oblivious to everything. He's just, but he gets very defensive when Gawain makes the accusation, which is really weird because there's also this tension between Guinevere and Arthur because she expects him to defend her honor, whereas he's like, well, no, I'm not going to fight Gawain, but we'll let Lancelot do it because he's also being accused.
Right.
So he basically, and I think part of it in the back of his mind is like, well, there's no way Lancelot's going to lose, so he'll be able to defend her honor. So he doesn't expect any loss there.
Right. He's the best one. He knows he's going to win.
Right. So then we get to this part you're talking about where Gawain is going to be waiting to joust and fight Lancelot for the right to. Whoever loses, basically, if Gawain loses, she's not, eyes for no one else. But if he wins, then there's going to be tension there. But as you pointed out earlier, there's this moment where Naked Boy is out there in the forest, starts having dreams of fighting himself, and wakes up and finds out he's impaled himself with a sword. And it's like basically like if you took a needle, if you're poke it in your side, because you can see it right through the side there.
Yeah.
So he's actually got a very mortal wound at this point. But flashback to the day of the fight, there's this other guy who was actually a squire for Lancelot that he found early on named Percival. And so Percival is going to fight on behalf of Lancelot because Lancelot has not shown up yet to the fight, and they're pretty much going to be like, "Hey, no show, he's a loser," one of those things. So Percival's like, "No, he's my dude. I'm going to fight for him." So Arthur knights him.
Yeah,
just
like, he's not a knight. He's not a knight, and like, I thinking like again, I don't really know the story. I'm like, he's gonna knight him, isn't he? And he does. I thought, oh god, that's like a funny thing. I it's like, you don't even know if you could fight. Just like, I don't care. Just get this shit over with.
It's one way or the other. So Percival does get ready to fight with Gawain, but then Lancelot shows up, and so now it game on. But you can tell by the blood kind of coming out of Lancelot's armor that he's seriously hurt, and he's not 100%. So even with that, he manages to defeat Gawain. In fact, comes very close to killing him until Gawain's like, "Okay, she's innocent. Yep, nope, don't kill me, please." And then before he gets angry and he just passes out, and then at this point, again, Arthur, I think maybe this is the point where Arthur maybe realizes maybe there's some truth to it because Guinevere is there at the bedside of Lancelot, and Arthur's asking Merlin to save him. But obviously, she's like mopey and crying, like almost probably more than she ever felt for Arthur. So I think he's kind of picking up, oh my God, maybe he was right. Maybe this is some bullshit.
He's not just a family friend. He's not just Uncle Lancelot.
Right. So Merlin does his little mojo magic and obviously saves Lancelot, to which once Lancelot sort of heals, he jets off to the forest again because he doesn't want to be there. This time, though, Guinevere gets on horseback, chases him out there. And so obviously she gets there, and at first he's like, "Stay away, she bitch." He doesn't want her want to make things more complicated, but then he's like, "Just can't help it. I'll have to stick you with my other sword." And so they end up having booty call there with the isopods and the millipedes and stuff like that.
They were on some Disney lot because Bambi was there, and there was a crow walking behind them, and like, what fantasy? Obviously it's a fantasy, but like, what the hell? Where would this ever happen? And again, I'm just thinking of the moss. Like, let alone they sleep in it. I just picture something crawling in your ear or like,
I mean, it has to be. I mean, obviously you can go run to the lake and clean up, but dude,
yeah.
I don't know about that.
Lay on
So,
there. I'd rather sleep on the horse.
yeah, uncomfortable as it is, just be like a cat and just lay on there.
Right.
But so Arthur's like asking Merlin, "Do you see them?" And he's like, "Yes." And so he knows now that they've been, but he's like, and of course Arthur's like, "Should I kill him?" And he's like, "I can't make that decision for you, bro. It's your own path. You know, you got to figure out what you're gonna do." And at this point, we know that Merlin is kind of like on his ending days a little bit. He's kind of just making his way to his final rounds. So we do get a nice scene, which is one of my favorites of the movie, where Arthur shows up to where they're sleeping. And instead of killing them, he actually impales Excalibur right between them as they sleep. Now, what that means is when they wake up, the king has no king has Excalibur, so there's no king. So they're now distraught because of the betrayal they gave to Arthur. So Lancelot just takes off, he's gone, and then
Yeah,
she ends up going to
no sword, no king, no land, blood, and then he freaks out, runs his naked ass away and balls and runs, and she's just like there with her flat chest and just say, "Hey, where?"
yeah, she's crying at the sword because she knows she fucked up. But she ends up going to a convent and becoming a nun, which is funny. But anyway,
Can we just say about that though, like these fuckers wake up with the king's sword in between them, and they know they're caught. They can't go back. He could have killed them both, and he didn't.
Yeah.
This is like a get the fuck off my land. I don't care about anything right now. Again, you said, which was enough to make her go to a convent and him like just fucking apparently roam the world forever.
Like Kane, yeah.
He's at that other part, he shows up and it's just like a caveman.
Yeah. Yeah. He was probably in a cave doing something. Who knows what? But
yeah, it's like
but yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because Arthur at this point he ends up kind of going into a shell, and so we got to go back to where Morgana is learning her tricks from Merlin, and so somehow Merlin, because once Arthur puts the sword between them, it affects Merlin in some way. Like it's almost like he got stabbed.
Yeah.
And so he kind of collapses, and now he's kind of disoriented. And so Morgana is kind of taking advantage of this, and she's getting him to say what's called the charm of making.
Yeah.
And so she's reciting what he's saying, and somehow he encases himself in ice. And so she's kind of giggling and laughing like, "You idiot, you thought you could get me in this, and it backfired on you." But we know Merlin's smart. He's a very smart guy.
Yes, he is.
So she has learned this stuff, and then she uses the same technique that Uther did to try to seduce Cornwall's wife. And so now she's going to, I don't know why she chose Arthur of everyone, but she did. Went and fucked her brother, basically.
Half brother. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like,
I mean, I guess it's only because it's blood. I guess that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
But since she was a half sister, I mean, she technically is in the family anyway. But you know,
it's not exactly.
Yeah, so,
it's like a messy incest thing.
Yeah, it's really weird. But she, of course, kind of pretends that she's Guinevere, and Arthur's like drunk or something. But eventually, she's like, "Thank you, brother," and he's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
And she quickly ends up having a kid who grows up to be this guy named Mordred, which is a very cool character. Cool armor, gold armor, solid gold armor. It's fucking amazing looking.
Yeah, it was Dot Matrix from Spaceballs.
Yeah.
Even said that.
So her plan now is to basically have Mordred go and kill off the knights, kill off Arthur and take the throne. That's basically her ultimate plan, because she's bitter because back then Merlin helped Uther basically rape the mother and kill her father. So that's why she's very bitter about that.
Which has nothing to do with this Arthur.
Correct.
I don't know what's taking the revenge out on him, but whatever.
Yeah. So Also during this time, because again, Arthur is now like he's mortified that he fucked his sister, and he's dealing with the loss of Lancelot and Guinevere. Uh, he tells his knights, and this again, we're going Holy Grail style. He's gonna say, "You gotta go find the Grail.
Yeah.
Gotta find the Grail so we can find our way back to the light and all this stuff." And so the knights are sent out to go find the Grail, and eventually they're just running into spells and they're dying, and Mordred's is tracking them down and killing them to prevent them from doing it, getting to the Grail or anything. So Percival eventually goes and retrieves Excalibur, and so he brings it back to Arthur, and
Well,
Arthur's like,
not yet. Not
"Okay,
yet.
go ahead."
You missed the whole part with the tree and
Okay, well, go ahead.
yeah.
Let me in.
Well, where did you say before that he sends all the knights out, and then it's like Percival is like mainly focused on him, and he's going across. And you could tell the time has passed. And apparently, it's 10 years. And he goes up and he sees a knight kneeled at something, and he thinks like the knight found it. And here it's like a knight. He's like a skeleton, and it's like, oh shit! And he thought he found it. He's like, we'll never find it. And then he like is traveling, and then that's where you see somebody goes is dead on the back of a horse, tied to a horse, and they're just like going away. And it's like, what the hell? And you hear this little laughter. I thought it was a girl at first. I thought it was like a woman, and it turns out to be, what was his name?
Mordred.
Mordred. And he's like, you seek the Grail, come this way. And like he goes, and you see this tree, and it has all these knights hanging from it, and all that crows pecking at them, which is funny because they're showing that one. And I go, they couldn't even do the decency of eating its eye. And right when I said that, the crow pulled the eye out. And she is like started laughing. I was like, well, look at that. It's like I'm predicting the movie, you know? And then so like goes in, and that's where Morgana is with this guy with the son. And I basically want him to like yield to her instead of Arthur. And he's like, is the Grail here or not? He's like, come on, give me the fucking thing. I want to go home. And they like mess with him, and then she does this like illusion where they're all like, all those knights that he saw were dead. He's like, oh, so and so, you're here, and here they're handing him a drink.
That's right. They started like following him or something, and he was paranoid and freaking out.
Yep. And he was like, no, no, no. And then that's where they put him on the tree. They hang Percival. And again, this is another part. I saw the thing hanging behind him, and I go, too bad he doesn't know it's behind him. They could cut down from that. Well, what do you think he did? Well, he didn't do it, but like it happened.
Yeah, it's like a spur on the heel of the knight behind him, and so that's cutting the rope while he's choking, basically.
Yeah, it's like swinging, and the shoes are going.
Kind of remind me actually from a little bit from Dracula 2000, Judas, that Judas scene. You know,
I don't remember that movie. I saw it one time when it came out. But yeah,
so yeah, Percival should have been dead, but
yeah, he should have been dead. He's dying, and then like he starts seeing this bridge that's opening. He walks in and he sees like a Grail. They don't call it a Holy Grail, like, you know, in Monty Python. It's just Grail. And it's like,
it's really nice.
You need to get the Grail for the Fisher King, and he said something to him. I can't remember what it said, like, who am I? And Arthur, Percival kind of freaks out, and he like climbs back up the bridge.
Yeah,
it's a drawbridge going back up, and then like he like drops down, and he's like, I didn't get it because I couldn't say the words, and that's so then after that he goes and tells Arthur about it, I think, or something, and then
he basically just reinvigorates Arthur and tells him, you know, get your shit together, basically. And so Arthur does, you know, Arthur's like renewed, and, you know, he comes back and has basically forgiven Lancelot and Guinevere. That's when he actually goes and visit her in the convent, and he's like, you know, you're still my queen. You know, forgive me. And even though he had nothing asked to apologize for, but it is what it is.
Yeah. He
But
just like,
that's his way
we're
of kind of,
cool. We're
yeah,
cool, you know.
yeah. So, so there is a scene where he's sitting there and Mordred shows up and announces who he is. He's like, "You're my father. I'm here to take my place on the throne, and you are just step aside." And at this point,
Yeah, Arthur says,
Arthur,
like, I can only offer you love.
yeah, he's
So
like, "I
that's the
can't give
one
you the
thing I
throne."
don't want.
Yeah, snotty little shit.
Yeah, because like they show the kid, he's like in the chair sitting. It's kind of like that dickhead from Game of Thrones, where everybody was excited to see a kid die in a
Yeah,
show. He was like kind of like him. He goes, "Put him to the tree," like, and then like she's talking to him, and he like all of a sudden he like it's older, he's older, and
yeah,
that's where he goes and does this what you're talking about, which is like time in this movie goes. It's like this to this and this to this and this. It's like so many years going by, and they're probably like in their 50s, but they look like they're like 80 years old. Time like those times were.
yeah. So, once Arthur is freed from his past pain, he visits Merlin, who's encased in the ice, and he basically liberates him and asks him for forgiveness and the love that he had for Merlin because they were a team. Releases Merlin, and they have a conversation, and then Merlin goes, and he's almost like, if you remember, if anybody watched our review of Dragon Slayer, it's almost like the wizard from that, where he's in kind of like a spirit form. He's not necessarily full.
Yeah.
So he pays a visit to Morgana, who is laying there in bed, and she kind of wakes up and she starts clawing at him and can't get him, but he starts talking to her, and he's kind of working with her. He's like, yeah, if Mordred's going to succeed, you might want to try to call the dragon. And so he starts telling her, do you remember how to recite it? He's kind of teasing her like she's not smart enough, and she
Like,
gets
don't you
pissed off.
remember the spell for making?
Yeah,
Which is
you have
what she did to him, right?
trauma making. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So she starts reciting it, but then we realize that this is going on in her head while she's sleeping. So we just start seeing the dragon's breath come out of her mouth, and it's going to exhaust all her powers and her beauty, which is she's been holding on to the youth for so long. And so Merlin's kind of making these final quips like, yeah, it might not look the same when you're done, but good luck to that.
Yeah. Which answered my question, because I thought, why does she and him look so young in this whole movie? And I figured, okay, they're wizard, they know something, but I didn't know it was like such a strong spell to keep them so young. Because that really thank God she don't look like that at that age now. I don't know how old that lady was, but like
they really did her a number on that one.
Yeah.
So of course, the troops from Mordred, they're like, dude, like your mother is putting dragon's breath out here, and it's like fucking us up. We're not gonna be able to see a shit, anything.
Yeah.
So Mordred's like, yeah, I'm gonna go see what's going on. So he goes, and of course he hears his mother calling his name, and then when he finally finds her, she's like an old witch, and so he's like, what the hell? And he freaks out. He's disgusted by her, and he kills her, strangles her to death. He says, fuck this. And so she gets her just dessert basically in the end here. Which then leads us to the final battle where Arthur and his knights are fighting Mordred and them, and a lot of people dying left and right. It's just crazy. And then, of course, you mentioned it. Lancelot pops in, like the caveman from Geico commercials. He's ready to go to battle, and he's swinging his mace and kicking ass. And everyone's like, "It's Lancelot! It's Lancelot! We're gonna win!" Yeah. So they get all excited.
I was like, is he on your side though? Because he kind of looks mad right now. It looks like he's ready to take anybody that comes near him. And then it's like, okay, he is on their side, but like, I was like, I don't know if I'd get close to him.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely stay out of his way, but
yeah,
they do reconcile on the battlefield between Arthur and Lancelot, and Lancelot eventually succumbs to injuries. Some of them probably long-standing. He talks about how the one injury he had when he stabbed himself never really healed. It's like a betrayal. He knew he fucked up. So it's kind of a nice moment between him and Arthur as Arthur's watching his friend pass, and he does say like, "Is the queen again?" And he's like, "Yes." And that's when finally Lancelot lets go and it's gone.
Yeah.
Then we're just down to Arthur and Mordred, and you can argue that you'd want to see a different play out of this scene, but I actually like this scene a lot. It's always stuck with me as far as like how this particular fight scene stands out. Like even in my own dreams of fantasies of fighting, medieval times and stuff, that's kind of like how I'd like to go out if I had to.
Yeah.
So basically, Mordred uses like a pike, and Arthur, of course, has Excalibur, and so Percival was going to fight in place of Arthur, but he's like, "Nope, don't worry about this. I got this." And his Mordred's like, "All right, father, let's have our final embrace or whatever it is." And he impales Arthur with the pike. It just goes right through him. But Arthur, instead of just succumbing, he's like pulling.
Oh, so badass.
Yeah. He pulls himself to Mordred and then forces Excalibur into his chest, killing Mordred.
Yeah.
And then pulls away. And he tells Percival, he's like, "I need you to take Excalibur, find a calm lake, throw that shit in there." And Percival's
come
like,
back.
Do what? I need you to go to a calm lake and throw the sword in the water. And this way, when another king comes along, it will appear and show itself to them. And so they can reclaim Excalibur. And that's where we get this scene here.
Yeah.
Which I don't necessarily know why he threw it with the blade, but
I don't either. I thought that too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's because of the weight. Maybe it makes it fly farther. I don't know.
Well, first off, that wasn't even that deep that he threw it. I mean, it looks deep with her hand there.
This is like a great fucking scene in the movie because it's so calm that when whoever is doing like here on through the water, it's just so clean. Like you don't see any waves or nothing. It's just so perfect.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. And I love like the entire scene in general because even that final battle scene, I don't know if about you, but it reminded me a little bit of Dracula, like,
where he's fighting with that red armor.
Yeah.
That's the impaling part. The impaling part for sure. Yeah.
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 So I thought great. Of course, when he gets back, this is kind of a cool scene too. They don't mention too much about it, but we know what's happening. So basically, Percival gets back to the battlefield where Arthur was, but he's not there. So he's calling out to Arthur. And then he looks out into the water, and it's basically the ocean. And there's a boat that's carrying him to Valhalla, basically. So it's kind of a really neat scene, but they never really talk too much about Valhalla in this, I don't think. So
why would he go to Valhalla, though?
That I don't know. May not be Valhalla. I don't know. I have to double check. Does it even say? Oh, it's called, okay, so I confused it. So, it's a ship towards Avalon. Let me see what Avalon is. I've never really heard much about it. Avalon is a mythical island featured in Arthurian legend. It appeared in Geoffrey, where King Arthur's sword Excalibur was made, and later where Arthur was taken to recover from battle from gravely wounded. So apparently he wasn't quite dead, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I guess it's going to Avalon. But it reminds me a lot of the whole Valhalla stuff.
Yeah, I could see that because they're like standing there like this, and it's like weird. I said, "Well, what the hell is going on here? What is this?"
Yeah.
And again, this is another movie where they had to like get rid of the thing that was making them powerful. Dragon Slayer, he had that amulet, and he had to crush it. It was like I said, it's like Frodo having to throw the ring again.
Mm-hmm.
Just him throw it because he's like, oh shit. Okay.
Knocked her out.
Yeah. What's up?
Cat.
Your pussy. Control your pussy.
I think it's the youngest one. I don't know.
This movie should tell everybody that the pussy ain't worth it.
Pussy ain't worth it.
If that guy would have just let the queen be with the king, none of this shit would have happened.
Well, the funny thing about it all is that both Uther and Arthur were warned that when it comes to the matters of the heart, that you should not follow that part of it. Like it's so funny. You're king. You can fucking have any chick you want.
Yeah.
If Merlin tells you this is not the way to go, maybe go the other way and try something else.
The guy like made your face change to another person. I think I'd trust him, you know.
Yeah,
He knows
exactly.
something, I guess, you know.
Well, I mean, he just helped you win fucking battles and create peace and a truce. And it's like, oh, I don't care. I want to fuck that dude's wife. You know, that's what I'm thinking about doing.
I need her. I'm horny.
Right. I'm like,
I'm
dude,
so
you're possessed.
fucking horny. I want his
I mean,
wife.
you could have maybe paid the dude fucking some gold and he might let you fuck her. Who knows? Like, it's. I'm like, look, man, I know she's your wife, but can we just make a deal here? Like, one night, can I just put her in the ass or something? You know,
Yeah.
can I just do
I'm
that?
your king. Let me.
I won't.
fuck her.
I won't get her pregnant. I'll do it in the ass, right? No problem. Come on,
Do it.
do it. All right. So, your impressions, final impressions, and then your rating for this film.
Well, you know, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as Dragon Slayer because I like the Dragon Slayer was like more like a. This is the story, you know, the dragon, blah blah, and this is like so much to it, like this person, and then it comes together in the end, whatever. But like, I didn't like it as much, I guess. I did like Merlin though. The parts I liked the most was the magic and the fighting, but like I thought everybody did a great job in it. I enjoyed everybody, and I even said to Shannon, I go, see, even back then, I'd probably go for the gothic chick. I said Helen Mirren, she looks fucking amazing, and she's like, she's still good looking.
Yeah.
And then she started talking about how Harrison Ford was good looking when he was younger, and then we got from there. But yeah, I mean, talking about it made me like it a little more. You know how that happens.
Yeah.
But not that I didn't like it, but just if I had to put this or Dragon Slayer in, it would be Dragon Slayer because I think it starts losing me and then it becomes the whole Holy Grail thing, and then it's like all this is like they're fighting like because of God, like everything's in God's name. And then I like when Merlin said that about like because they're like they had that altar and they're getting married and like Jesus Christ's picture back there, and he's like this is the new thing. All the old gods are dead now. We're like the last ones that believe it. And I thought that was an interesting way he said that. Because it's true, but yeah, it was the grittiness was cool. The effects were cool. Like I said, that sword coming out of him looked good. All in all, it was an interesting look on it. And I'd like to see other things. I'd like to actually read about this. But yeah, all in all, it was okay. It was decent. I guess my rating would probably be a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely love the atmosphere, the grittiness. The effects are great in this. The acting is top notch for me. Again, this is one of these films probably more nostalgia for me, but I still really, really love this film. I still give it a 10 out of 10. I love it a lot. I don't know if it's just me liking older medieval period pieces like this, like, Conan and stuff like that. But these kind of films stick with me, and they have since I was a kid. So it's probably one of the reasons why I chose it. I haven't seen it in a while, but definitely still have a lot of big feelings for it. So
I think if I saw it when I was your age, or when I was younger, I probably would like it because I like this kind of movies. But like I didn't see it, so now it's like hitting me differently now.
Oh
like
yeah,
you would you with the Goonies,
Exactly. Because it's all about when you see it, and you're a little bit more older now, and you can look at it from a different lens. As a young teen, though, you're kind of like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't question it. It's just like, okay,
Right.
now you pick everything apart. Why would they do that?
Yeah. I mean, this movie does fail a little bit in terms of editing. Like I said, there is a lot of different character going on that you don't always get to follow right away.
Yeah.
We talked about the Avalon thing at the end. Like that's the first time it's even ever mentioned, I think, from what I can remember.
Hmm.
So when it happens, you're kind of like, where the fuck are they going with him? You know, so again, that's why I thought Valhalla first. I was like, what? Something like Valhalla would do, you know, just the carry on or something. But yeah, so it's still a very fun movie. But next week, have you figured out what you plan on watching?
If I say no, can we just make it a secret? Like I
Sure.
have an idea what I want to watch, but I want to make sure that we can both watch it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, no,
Uh,
I mean it's fine. I mean shit changes. I mean people know that you know we can't always come through. I mean, God forbid.
because I have what I have picked is a comedy, but
Hmm.
I don't really want to watch a comedy right now. I want to watch something because you picked these two type of movies. I want to go a little bit more away from horror, maybe. So I'm trying to find something, but I think it's they're just gonna have to come over to my channel and check it out. So they're gonna be surprised at what it is because
Yeah,
I'll be surprised too because I don't know yet. I have ideas, but nothing
he's got
guaranteed.
ideas.
Yeah.
He's
And like
got
you said
ideas.
before the stream, I have a week.
Yeah,
Figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah. You never want to rush into it because sometimes I'll say, "Well, I'm going to do this," but then I'll change my mind like 2 days later
Yeah.
and go to something else.
Yeah.
As far as the Mel channel, Taylor channel, like you know, the wife and I are getting ready to move soon, probably within the next few weeks. So
Mm.
obviously, I have stuff planned, but they may change depending on when I'm moving and what day. So it shouldn't affect Tony and I, but if it does, then I'll let you all know, and then we can just readjust from that point once I get reset up at the new pad.
Yep.
But this Friday, I am gonna do uh, the Rodan Kaiju special with Century. And then Saturday with Kevin Lambert. I think Tony's going to be there for the Candyman franchise review.
Oh yeah. Thanks for reminding
So,
me.
yeah, yeah. I think that's at 3 p.m. our time. So I just have to double check with Kevin, but that's what I have on my calendar.
Okay.
And I think he put it there because I think he might have something going on. I don't remember, but
I don't have anything on Saturday.
okay. Maybe it's somebody else then. But either way, I think that's what I have, but I'll just double check with him.
Okay.
But either way, that's about it until next week when we figure out more shit we're going to do. But
Yeah.
rather than my usual outro, I've got a little special something because I do love the score. Something we didn't talk about a lot in this film. The score is amazing.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yes. Good. Good stuff.
So that's part of my outro here, and it's got clips from the movie, of course. So
Ooh.
we will see you next time on the Ghouls of Midnight, and enjoy the rest of your fucking evening.